One of the most unique prophecies in the book of Daniel, the one that some argue is the detail that makes him faint, is the prediction that a day would come when the law of God, the law of heaven, the only law that keeps all life in action, the law of love, would be changed. And even worse, it would be declared to be changed by people professing to worship him. Instead of living to love and serve others, the law would be reversed, and the covenant would be trampled upon, and man would come to a point where all he can think of is how to serve himself. See, the law of God in heaven was likely Romans 14:7. None liveth to himself. It's this comprehensive idea. If applied transparently, it's universally appropriate. When Israel leaves Egypt, though, they're like these children that don't know their ABCs. And so the prince met them in the desert and further delineated the law of heaven into 10 lessons of life. Today we understand these, the first 4 dealing with our relationship with God, and the last 6 in how we relate with mankind. We call them the 10 Commandments. And they're summarized in Exodus chapter 20, and they sound like this. They start with this declaration as to the motivation of why Israel and God's people through time should live by these 10 principles. It says in verse 2, I am the Lord your God who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. I think we could read it. So it is in light of this freedom I have given you, and in order not to turn back into a degraded form of life, you'll do these things. Now I know we usually list these as do nots, but I think it could be read as you will nots. So the first commandment, you must not have any other God but me. Question, why is this? Because if we don't get our priorities in order, another God will rule us. The second, you must not make for yourself an idol of any kind, of an image of anything in the heavens or in the earth or in the sea. Don't bow down to them, don't worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, and I will not tolerate affection for any other gods. Because I lay the sins of the parents on the children, and the entire family is affected, even to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love upon 1,000 generations of those who love me and obey my commands. In other words, don't degrade yourself into worshiping the creation instead of the Creator, because you'll rise no higher than your perception of God and His character. Also, this is a commandment removed from most Bibles to condone the worship of idols and saints, but that's a different video. The third commandment, you must not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, because the Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse His name. We often think of this as curse words, but I think it's much broader. I think it includes any behavior that is not fit for someone who's a follower of Jehovah, i.e., don't call yourself a follower of mine, then cheat your friend, lie to your colleague, be honest, don't be a hypocrite. All right, the fourth commandment, the only commandment with a call to remember it, as if it was something they'd heard before and or would need to remember in the future. It says, remember to observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest, dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, don't let anyone in your house work. That includes you, your sons, your daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, or any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and everything in them, but on the 7th day He rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. And as we discussed earlier, the 7th day of the week, Saturday, was set aside for mankind to be this holiday to never forget that we were created as an answer to a problem in the universe. And we are a part of the mystery that is being revealed to the onlooking worlds. Once we lose sight of being created for something special, we're just descendants of apes with no better law than the law of the jungle, survival of the fittest, which is the opposite of that law to love others more than we love ourselves. All right, the 5th commandment. Honor your father and mother. You'll live a long life if you do this. Parents bring us into the world. They're supposed to show us what God is like, that bond between the Father and the Son that's part of this mystery being revealed. But sadly, many parents don't live up to this. This is the first commandment that comes with a promise of longevity if we honor those who came before us. All right, the 6th commandment. Don't murder. Today we glorify violence in so many forms, but God's methods of dealing with wrong are that He will handle it in the end. It's not for us to settle. The 7th commandment, don't commit adultery. Marriage is a part of this mystery of two having one purpose, revealing the glory of God, the beauty of love to the universe. And the sacredness of this intimacy in a marriage is not a light matter in God's eyes. The 8th, don't steal. You have your things. Don't take things from someone else. This is in direct opposition of the law of heaven. We should give and not take. The 9th commandment, don't testify falsely against your neighbor. This commandment calls us to be honest. Don't gossip. Don't share about things that aren't true, because lies in the end have consequences. And the 10th, you must not covet your neighbor's house, his wife, his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. See, this deals with being satisfied with what God has given us and not looking at others and all their things in their life and wishing we had what they have. I think social media today may be the greatest covetousness trap, where we scroll through wishing we had someone else's life, and it only leads to anxiety, depression, and if we cherish it, violence. See, the love of God and the 10 Commandments are fascinating because the world buys into most of them, even in secular societies. But the largest Christian commune, the Catholic Church, has claimed the power to remove the commandment about not making idols and bowing down so that we can worship the saints. The Catholic Church has also claimed to have the right to have the authority to change the 7th day of rest, the holiday of creation, to the first day of the week to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus. It sounds nice, but it's scripturally, there's no basis for it. We can't abandon the 7th-day Sabbath just to keep the traditions of Rome. And sadly, there are so many sincere believers today in all these Christian denominations, but that one about remembering we seem to have forgotten, and we follow in the footsteps of tradition. I wonder if this is what Daniel saw in vision that made him sick for weeks, when Daniel chapter 7 describes the rise of the Church of Rome, and it says, "He will speak against the Most High, wear down the saints of the Highest One, and will intend to make alterations to times and a law, and they'll be handed over for times, and half a time." I think Daniel must have been shocked at a movement claiming to be the followers of God, yet claiming to have the power to change the law, because he knew the eventual result would be chaos, and not so longer living for others, but living for ourselves, and extinction would be the result. See, the law of God is said by some to be arbitrary, but the more you get into it, the more you see it as a law as much as the laws of physics, it can change our whole life. But before we wrap this up, there's one subject that's Googled perhaps more than any other in the Bible, and that's the mark of the beast. See, to understand this mark and who the beast is, we have to understand the ingredients for what the seal of God is, because the mark of the beast is the opposite of the seal of God. See, God never forces anyone to do anything, but the power that forces people to go against the law of Jehovah is one who uses force. A seal typically includes a name, a title, a territory. We have a hint as to the seal because in Ezekiel 20 verse 12, it tells us the Sabbath is the seal or sign that God is the only one who sanctifies us or makes us holy. And when we look at the 4th commandment in Exodus 20, we see all of the ingredients of a seal: the Lord, the creator of the heavens and the earth. When we look at the mark in Revelation 13, we see that in prophecy, beasts represent kingdoms, as described in Daniel 7. We then have to ask, what beast or kingdom in history has used, or we could say misused, the Sabbath and used it as a sign of force? We need to look no further than the declared change of the 4th commandment by Constantine to the first day of the week, the high holiday of the pagan world, which was Constantine's religion. It was the day of the sun, the highest deity in the pagan religion. Early on, they could still keep Sabbath on the original day, but gradually, penalties came in for Sabbath observance and for breaking the sacredness of Sunday. The beast with the mark of its authority is none other than the Church of Rome. So the question then is, what is the mark of the beast? It will be, it is not yet, but will be when Christendom uses force in relation to Sabbath observance. The exact opposite of the original 7th day, the holiday of creation, that was to rest from our works. We're told some will get it in the forehead. That's where we buy into ideas and beliefs. And some will get it in the hand. That's what we use to work. In other words, some will get it just to get by and fit in, even though they don't believe in it. But sadly, the warning of the 3rd angel in Revelation 14 is that any man that receives the mark for any reason will be lost. This is why it is so important we discern now on which side of the controversy we will be found.